Is Fourth Wing good? No. Did I love it? No, I didn't. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to Man vs. Smut. This is a new series that I'm doing on my channel where I read and review all the spicy books from a man's perspective. This book was honestly so bad that I'm gonna need a drink, so let's go get a drink. Cheers. So Fourth Wing is about a small, frail 20-year-old girl with a connective tissue disorder who is forced by her mother to go to a dragon riders college, and she ends up getting caught in a love triangle. So our main protagonist's name is Violet Sorrengail, and she has a connective tissue disorder called, I think it's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is actually the same connective tissue disorder that the author Rebecca Yarros has. So she wrote this in as kind of an homage to her own disorder. I'm gonna need to drink a lot to get through this. And being someone with my own disability, I can respect that. I love that she's putting her disabilities out there for the world to see and to understand. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work here. So first I want to talk about what this book does good, because there's some things that it does do good and a lot that it does bad. What it does good is some of the fantasy elements. At the very beginning of the book, we find out that Violet has been training her whole life to become a scribe. Because of her disorder, she's too weak and frail to become a dragon rider. So she's been training and training and training this whole time to become a scribe. Her father was a scribe and he unfortunately passed away. And her mother is the general of the dragon riders quadrant. She has a sister who is a successful dragon rider. And she has a brother who was a dragon rider, but he passed away. He died in the previous rebellion. So she comes from a lineage of dragon riders, and her mother refuses to let her become a scribe. After her father passes away, her mother tells her basically that she's gonna go into the dragon riders quadrant no matter what. Doesn't matter if she's been training her whole life to be a scribe, she's gonna force her to go into this dragon riders quadrant. So she learns about this like 6 months before school is supposed to start. And so she only has 6 months to train to become a dragon rider, while the rest of the kids who are dragon riders or who are training to become dragon riders have been preparing for this their whole lives. So what this book does good is it sets up that whole narrative for the Bisgayeth War College and how cool and awesome the dragon riders are, and they're like the most prestigious part of the school. Everybody looks up to them and fears them kind of at the same time. And that's really cool. Like, it made me want to know more. Like, I want to get into the nitty-gritty details of the world building and how this college works and why the dragon riders are so popular and cool, and they're dragon riders. So what's all this about the dragons? Like, how do the dragons work? How do they let humans ride them? And like, all of this stuff are things that are swirling in my mind at the beginning of this book. And what this book did bad is all of that. Like, it doesn't go into any great detail on any of that stuff. It's very shallow, keeps it very high level, and it was very disappointing. So I want to answer the question of who is this book for? The answer is like nobody. This is supposed to be a romantasy novel, and it doesn't do the fantasy part any justice. And I don't think it even does the romance part any justice. There's no romance in this book at all. It's just sex. There's no swooning, there's no flirting, there's none of that. It's just young girl drools over hot buff guy, and then they have sex. Like, that's what this story is, with like the most minimal fantasy elements sprinkled in. First off, the mom is a real see you next time. At the very beginning of the book, when they're entering the Dragon's Quadrant, they have to cross this parapet, which is explained to be like this really long, narrow bridge that they have to cross. And it's really high up in the air. It spans over a ravine. And so they have to kind of keep their balance as they walk across this parapet. And it's really dangerous because it's really windy out there. And if they lose their footing, they'll slip and fall off and die. By the way, for a college full of young adults, they really promote dying. They could just kill each other for no reason. And it doesn't make any sense because the book explains that they're really hurting for dragon riders and they need more dragon riders so they can help fight and blah, 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 whatever. And they just let them kill each other. It's fucking stupid. But anyways, I digress. So they have to walk across this parapet to get into the dragon riders quadrant of the college. And if they don't make it across, they die and then they're just out. Their name gets read off of a list at the end of the day and then they get forgotten about. When it's Violet's turn to go across the parapet, she's kind of freaking out, and the way that she calms herself down is she reads off a bunch of like facts about the world and about like, it's basically info dumping, but it's her releasing her stress to get across the parapet and get through this whole ordeal. But it's so obviously info dumping about the world and it's an attempt at world building that it's not believable that she's actually doing this to help calm her nerves and relieve her stress. So as the other students are going across this parapet, some kids are making it, some kids are falling off, you see a couple people die, whatever. As soon as Violet steps up to go across the parapet, all the other kids had perfect weather to go across, and then once it's Violet's turn, of course, there has to be some kind of drama that happens, and so it starts downpouring. Which is fine, except for Violet's mom controls storms. Like, that's her power. She controls storms. Either Violet's mom is really trying to fuck her over and get her killed, or she can just fucking control the storm and turn it off and let her daughter go across the parapet alive. Like, what the fuck? And you would think like, oh, this is kind of like anti-plot armor, right? Like, they're putting her in a sticky situation really early on. Except no, because she actually gets real plot armor. Her Dragon Rider sister gives her literal dragon scale armor so she doesn't get hurt because, again, she's a small, frail little girl with a connective tissue disease. So there's no reason she should ever be in this Dragon Rider quadrant at all. She should just go be a scribe. How the fuck am I going to get through this? Drink number 2. There is like one very small redeeming quality about this dragon armor that she gets though, and that is there's a tiny like character / world building element that happens later on in the book where she's wearing this dragon armor, and this dragon armor her sister made her is actually built from the scales of, or it includes scales of her sister's own dragon. She takes scales from her own dragon and builds them into this armor suit. When Violet meets her sister's dragon, the dragon like sniffs her and he can smell his own like scales or whatever on her, which I thought was like a really cool like moment in the book. And I really enjoyed that. I kind of wish there was more of that kind of stuff. So the first half of this book is basically Violet trying to survive in this school. There are days where they have to like go on a wrestling mat and do hand-to-hand combat with other students, remembering that students can kill each other, literally. She has this target on her back because she's a quote-unquote Sorengale. There's this whole rebellion plot where her mother killed off a bunch of people and because they were traitors, and then the sons and daughters of these rebels that she killed are transcribed into the Dragon Riders quadrant. So basically to pay for the mistakes of their mothers and fathers and show allegiance to the Dragon Riders Guild or whatever, they're transcribed into the guild and they have to be Dragon Riders like forever. And if they can't make it, they just die. So everybody hates Violet because she is her mother's daughter and her mother was the leader of this whole war or whatever. I keep saying or whatever because the story is so shallow that we don't get any of the details. Like, none of this is actually explained. It's just basically touched upon and we're supposed to just kind of take it at face value, but it's never explained like why this rebellion happened or like whatever. Like, none of it's explained. So I just have to say or whatever because I literally just don't know. So touching on this whole love triangle thing, there's this whole love triangle thing that's going on, and it's between her childhood best friend, whose name is Dane. They meet up and reconnect at this war college, and Dane is super scared for Violet's life because, again, she's this frail, tiny woman with this disease, and there's no reason that she should ever have been put into this Dragon Riders College. She should have been a scribe. And Dane over and over and over is trying to convince her to go be a scribe. Like he'll sneak her into the scribe's quadrant. And her mother will never know. And it seems like Dane is like the good guy here. He's like, yeah, I care for you so much that I just want you out of here. I want you to be safe. But he turns into a creeper like super fast. He's so overbearing, and Dane's power is that he can read minds. And he tells Violet this like right up front. He's like, hey, Violet, my power is that I could read your mind if I really wanted to. And Violet's like, oh my God, that's so cool. You can read my mind. And then she just forgets. Like she totally forgets that he could read her mind. So there's like multiple times throughout the book where he's like, oh yeah, I forgot this point. In order to read her mind, or in order to read anybody's mind, he has to like touch their face. And this is a plot hole because at the beginning of the book, it says that he has to touch your temples in order to read your mind. But then it just turns into like he can just touch anywhere on your face. So he can hold you like this or whatever, and he can read your mind. So like, which one is it? Does he have to touch your temples, or can he just touch your face? Like, what? It's bad writing. So before Violet ever goes to this war college, her sister tells her,
there's this one boy that you should never ever talk to. His name is Zane Ryerson. And don't talk to him because he's the worst guy in the world.
And who does she talk to? Like, the first person that she fucking talks to is Zane Ryerson. Like, so Zane Ryerson is a super hot guy because of course he is. He can't just be fucking normal. He's a super hot guy, really buff and ripped and tall and handsome, and he's the most powerful guy in the college, and he's the leader of the wing, and he rides the coolest, biggest, coolest dragon because of course he does, because he's the love interest, so he has to be unrealistically hot and cool. And of course Violet falls in love with him like immediately. Oh, this is the bad guy. I'm not supposed to talk to him. Oh my God, I love him. I'm drooling over him. Every time I look at him, my pussy tingles. Like, what the fuck? Like, for the win, I guess. For the win. Because she doesn't say that 500 times in the book. Like, I just had to check my notes because Violet is supposed to be 20 years old. It's written like she's 15 or 14. She's written so young that I haven't even gotten to the sex scenes yet, but it's like creepy because Xaden is written much older. Like the way that he is written is like 23, 24, 25. The way that he acts, the way that he handles himself, he's much older, it feels like. It just gets creepy, like super creeper vibes. The first half of the book, or like maybe even 3/4 of the book, it was like a young YA novel where like this really young girl has a big crush and falls in love with the big bad hot guy. Young girls have crushes on guys. That's nothing new, except then the sex scenes come and they're like super explicit and raunchy, and it goes from like a young YA novel to like adult, like X-rated adult. I got the ick. Like, it was fucking gross, actually. Also, how is Violet this like young, frail, fragile woman, even with her armor on, which by the way, like she got stabbed so many times and her plot armor saved her so many times. Like she could have been dead like 6 times probably if this stupid armor didn't save her. But somehow during the sex scene, she's getting ravaged and she's perfectly fine. She's supposed to have a connective tissue disorder, and that makes like your shoulder joints weak and your hip joints weak. All of your joints like pop out really easy, but not during sex apparently, because Xaden is going to town, like he is going in and nothing. Like she's just perfectly fine. She's so fine, in fact, her power is lightning. By the way, I didn't mention that because lightning is fucking stupid and boring and like super uninspiring. Her power is lightning. And so as they're like getting it in, her lightning just goes off and she's like, lightning bolts are going off outside and she's burning down trees and like smashing windows and stuff. I don't want to keep going. I don't want to keep going. I want to be done with this video. Oh yeah, and like the dragons, going back to the dragons for a second. So Xaden has like the most powerful, cool dragon or whatever until Violet, right? Because she's the main character. So she has to have the most coolest, badass dragon. And so when she bonds with her dragon, she bonds with like the biggest, coolest, most badass dragon that hasn't been seen in 500 years. And even when he was seen, they're like, no, he hasn't bonded with anybody for a long time. And he's probably never going to bond with anybody. Who does he bond with? The weakest, frailest, most fragile person in the whole fucking school. Not only that, but she bonds a second dragon, which is like a little baby dragon, which baby dragons aren't supposed to bond, but this one did for whatever fucking reason that's not explained. So now not only does she have the coolest, most badass big dragon, she also has this little baby dragon. So she's bonded with two dragons, which has never happened before. And not only is she bonded with the coolest, most biggest badass dragon, that dragon also happens to be the mate of Xaden's dragon. There's like a love triangle with the fucking dragons. So because Xaden's dragon and Violet's dragon are bonded together, that means Xaden and Violet are also bonded together, because a dragon can't go without its rider, or the rider can't go without its dragon. But also, just because, which is never explained, the dragons can't be apart from each other, because if they're apart for too long, they'll die. Why? What the fuck? So that means since the dragons have to be with each other all the time, Violet and Xaden have to be with each other all the time. How convenient. Did I also mention that when the dragons fuck, Violet can feel it? Like, she can feel it in her mind and in her body. Like, she can feel the sensation of the dragon fucking that's happening. Okay, I'm calming down a little bit because I want to talk about actually a pretty serious topic that gets brought up in this book. And that is the issue of disability representation. Obviously, I'm disabled. I only have one eye. It's pretty obvious. It's not something that I could hide. But Rebecca Yarros and consequently Violet in the book have a hidden disability. And that's something that's not talked about enough, in my opinion. They have, I think, what's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but it's a connective tissue disorder that makes I think it makes your muscles and your joints weak, and your joints can like slip out of place and pop out really easily. I really commend Rebecca Yarros for including that in the book and giving herself some representation and some eyes on that. She doesn't specifically call it out in the book on what the disorder is, but it's pretty obvious to make that connection since she has it in real life. I do have a criticism though, because I admire Rebecca Yarros for putting in disability representation, but at the same time, there was some other things thrown in that just kind of seemed like virtue signaling. There's so many people out there in the world that don't get the proper representation that they deserve. I think it's one thing to do it in a book when it makes sense, but it's another thing to do it just to check off a virtue signaling box. Like, oh, I got this one. Yep, this one's represented. Yeah, this one's represented. And that's what I felt like she was doing in this book, and that's why I have a problem with it. These people don't have these disabilities, or being a minority, or being a lesbian, or being deaf. Like, these issues aren't issues to sell books. And I feel like that's what this was. I feel like it was her attempt to tick off the virtue signal box so she could sell books because she's being politically correct. And I don't think that's okay. I have a real problem with that. I love representation for everybody. I want everybody to be represented. Obviously, I have a disability. I'm not coming at this as an angle to be disingenuous or to be spiteful or anything. I honestly think she put these things in her book just to tick off the box to get the sales. And I think that's fucking disgraceful. And I think Rebecca Yarros should honestly be ashamed of herself. Not only do I think she did that, but I think she did it in a way that doesn't do these things justice. And I'm going to talk about those real quick. So Violet's best friend, Rhiannon, is Black. and it's explained in the book that she's a black character, which is cool. But she's also a lesbian, which I think was one of the ticks. Like, okay, virtue signal check, lesbian included. Or maybe bisexual. The way that it was explained is she had multiple men and women coming in and out of her room all the time. So it's like Rhiannon was just fucking everybody. And that's gross. Like, I don't think that's good representation, not only for black people, but lesbians or bisexuals. Because it's not like they just go around fucking the whole world. And it's also not like that detail of her was explored at all. Also, the way that Xaden is described is that his skin is tawny. And if you don't know what tawny is, that just means he's black. And it's not mentioned that he's black anywhere in the book. It just mentioned that his skin is tawny. I actually saw an interview with Rebecca Yarros, basically, where she confirmed, someone asked her the question, like, what is tawny skin? And she said, oh, that just means he's a minority. Why didn't you just say that then? You said it for Rhiannon that she was black. Why couldn't you just say that Xaden was black? Like, not only was the representation there bad, but it was kind of misrepresentation in my opinion, because not everybody is going to know what that even means unless they go look it up. So like, just do better. Because she didn't do better, I think it was just another virtue signal check. Like, she's just checking the boxes. And then the last one was her friend Jasenia, who is one of the scribes. So when she's going and working in the library, she's interacting with Jasenia, and Jasenia is the one that's actually transcribing the story. At the very beginning, we learned that this story is being transcribed by Jasenia. Jasenia is deaf, which is fucking cool. Except that is not explored again at all. Fucking get real. She does such a poor job of representation that it just pisses me off, really. What pisses me off the most is that I fully believe that she just put these things in there to make sure that she was checking off the box to sell the fucking books. And that's it. And that pisses me right the fuck off. Because being someone that's disabled and that has gone through all these struggles in my whole life, if I was represented that way in a book, I would be fucking pissed. Because none of the struggles of any of these characters were ever called out or touched upon at all, except her own. Like, it was cool that she did that for her own, but she didn't do it for any of these other characters, so why the fuck even mention it? I would love your recommendations on a good romance or romantasy book that I could read that still has smut in it. I want something that has smut in it. That's the whole point of this series. I want to explore that side of books and see kind of what the hype is and bring my perspective as a man. But this was just fucking garbage. So with that said, I have to go make another fucking drink because I'm going to chug the rest of this one right now. I'll see you guys later.